Meredith show. I am super excited for literally the most inspirational person I've ever met in the world. There you have it. The Meredith show is designed to share stories of inspiration, but most importantly to me, to share stories that matter. And I have to say, welcome V so much to the show. Thank you for being with us. And I also need to share that not many years ago, a few years back, V and I got to share a stage, and it was the first time I heard her story, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I am honored and privileged now to be able to call V a friend. And I knew when I had a TV show that I had to reach out to her, and she said yes, she would share her story. And I'm really, really touched that you said yes. So thank you for being a yes, V.
Well, thank you for asking.
Let's start at the beginning. And like many guests on this show, it was a forget that word tough. It was a major rough patch of health. So if you wouldn't mind beginning at the beginning and with your challenges.
Yeah, I developed multiple sclerosis at a very young age, 23 years old. And it came literally after I was a respiratory therapist. I got the hepatitis vaccine, woke up with MS the next day. Not an anti-vaxxer, just my story. I also had Lyme disease, Hashimoto's, which is thyroid, and Epstein-Barr, which is mono, which is very common. One autoimmune, you usually have more. And that was at the age of 23. And by the age of 37, I became legally disabled from the effects of MS on my body. And what that looked like for me was I had no use of both my hands, which is the highest form of disability a human can have. Like most people think being in a wheelchair. But if you can't use your hands, what can you do? Just think about it. Can't do anything. You really can't.
It's pretty scary stuff.
Yes. So I no use both my hands, no feeling on the left side of my body. I couldn't look left, right, or up or down. On a good day, I could dress myself, feed myself, and use the ladies' room. I had full-time help, people living with me. I couldn't drive. My life was unmanageable. I lived in constant pain. I at one time had millions of dollars in the bank. I spent all of it until I was completely broke on healthcare. And I was faced with institutionalization. Literally, quite honestly, I had no money, couldn't care for myself. So like any rational person, I went to Burning Man, which is an arts festival in the desert. And they also built a temple. And in that temple, I prayed every day for help. And I realized that our healthcare system is a for-profit system. And maybe I should think outside of the box a little bit. I was already doing yoga. I was already doing all these other things. But now that I didn't have any money to buy the drugs and all the stuff that I was taking, I sort of didn't have a choice. And lo and behold, a year later, I've reversed almost every symptom of multiple sclerosis, all these diseases on my body. And it's all accessible healthcare. It's diet, lifestyle. It's yoga, meditation, no gluten, no grains, no dairy, no processed foods, sitting outside, putting my feet in the soil, getting sunlight, managing stress, like all these wonderful hippie, dippy things, right? And my $37,000 a year out-of-pocket healthcare costs are now gone because my symptoms are gone. And to make a long story short, as I got better, I figured, well, this didn't just happen to me because I'm some special person. This happened because I'm supposed to teach other people. So one day I was on a yoga mat and it just came to me that I was supposed to get rid of all my possessions. I lived in a great rent-controlled place in Santa Monica, that I was just going to go on social media and see if anybody was willing to give me a place to sleep. I would drive to them. Now, remember, I couldn't drive for 10 years. I would drive to them and I would teach them everything I knew for free. That's all I knew. I didn't know how it was going to work. And I went on social media and I said that. And within a day, not even a full day, I had 9 states and 14 requests of people are like, come live with me. So wow. I knew I had to do this. Yeah, right.
I mean, first of all, the generosity, I think it's probably twofold. It sounds like you were outraged once you realized what you could do if you didn't listen to traditional medicine. I know that's a controversial thing to say, and I'm not here bashing any doctors.
No, neither am I, because there's a place for it, you know?
Right.
Disease, you know, I believe that we're a critical care nation only. And if you have heart disease or you break a limb or something like that, we got you. You know, but if you have a disease, something that's not going to go away, it's really hard for our healthcare system, because think about the way it is. You go to a doctor, you say, I have a runny nose. They give you medication to get rid of the runny nose. They're never really looking as to why you have the runny nose. Well, you don't get rid of disease. It stays there all the time. So Western medicine's like, well, we have no idea what to do with something that doesn't go away. So I literally was in that space. And so here I am. I had done a few things and shared my story. And it just so happened that there's this organization called Patel and Worlds, which puts some of the greatest minds ever on stages. And I had the pleasure of meeting the owner of this organization, or the co-owner, the president, whatever he is. And he heard my story and he pointed to me and he said, I'm good. You're coming on my stage. I had no idea who this person
I'm going to
was.
stop you because what you haven't shared yet is like Deepak Chopra was on this stage.
Yeah.
Like,
Quincy Jones was actually on the stage the same time I was on the stage.
oh,
Huge name.
legends.
Yeah, like that's what it is. So Worlds it brings the greatest minds in the world together on a stage. I was Magic Johnson, like these are the people, Tony Hawk was on the stage when I was on the stage. Kerry Walsh, the volleyball player, like and Quincy Jones were all on the same stage that I was invited to.
Amazing.
So I get invited, and like I met this person in December and I got the call in like May. Like I was just, they're like, do you remember? And I was like, whoa.
Well, that's how inspiring you are. I'm not at all surprised. On the Meredith Show, we talk about shining, and that's about sharing your light with the world, being a stand. And if anything, you're a stand for health, vibrancy, and fighting for it, and not accepting the norm and the status quo. And from what I understand, at that event, you had an unbelievable, life-changing meeting. So you probably didn't think much of it at the moment. So tell us, this is funny. Apparently there's a hug policy, a mandatory hug policy.
When when they open up Worlds, they say, that if you see someone, you should hug them. So don't walk by someone and not hug them. Like this is an event of community. So I'm a rule follower. You tell me I have to do something, I'm going to do it. So I was running between things that I was doing. I was working with VIPs on biohacking, and I was also doing a cooking demo because I'm also a 5-star rated chef. So I'm running through this hallway, and I run by this very tall gentleman. And I realized I didn't give him a hug. So I'm running backwards now. I'm like, oh, sorry. Hey, I have like 3 seconds, but hug, hug, hug. And we like exchanged who we were. He said he like owned Dash Radio. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing. You should come and see me. Listen to my talk. He seemed very disinterested. He's like, nah, I'm not going to be here when you're talking. Great meeting you, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. A couple of days later on LinkedIn, I get a message. Hey, I met you, Worlds, we hugged. Would you meet at Cafe Gratitude in downtown LA for like 3 hours on this day? I only have that day available. So now, like, I don't know who
Were you like, what the heck?
I was just like, whoa, okay, I guess this is what Worlds is about. Like, I didn't know. Like, I like didn't even know why I was even asked to be there. Like, I was like, you want me? Like, are you kidding? They're like, what's your rate? I'm like, what's my rate? Like, I was like, who am I? Whoa, okay. So now on LinkedIn, I see, yeah, he's involved in this radio, whatever, but he was a championship NBA basketball player. Now, I don't follow basketball. I knew he was tall. He played for the Lakers, and his story is magical. So then I see, I messaged, so when he says it, I said, oh, I see who you are. And I respond, I'll meet with you, but I don't want anything from you. And he's like, well, first of all, lady, take a step back. He's like, I asked you to meet me. You didn't ask me to meet you. So clearly I'm not thinking you want anything from me. So do you want to meet or not? So now I'm like, I'm from Philly. I'm an East Coaster, Taurus, Italian. Like I'm in your face, like obviously to overcome what I overcame, you have to have this, right? You do. You just have to be like so bullheaded. It's ridiculous. And like I said, I announced the store. I had no idea, like, hey, who's paying for gas? How am I driving to these people's? Like, I had none of this figured out, but somehow I'm miraculously going to do this. And I meet this guy 3 days before I'm going to the first house. I still haven't figured it out.
Wow.
So we meet at Cafe Gratitude, and he shows up with like a notebook. And I'm like, oh my God, what's the notebook? And he's like, oh, I want to know everything about your life from the day that you were born to like the present day. And I've allotted the time, so go. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, just go. And I'm like, just go. Why? He's like, listen, there's a reason why we met. I felt an energy. I'm not sure what it is. I'm here to explore what that is. And I think I know why, but I just need to hear. So I'm like, okay.
A little weird, but all right.
all right, stranger, I'm gonna just, share my life with you. So I'm like, bleh. And at the end of it, he's like, which is like hours later, and the man buys, I mean, he's just so nice, so nice. And he's like, okay, well, I think you should just pray for an angel. You should just pray for an angel, and I'll be in touch. I'm like, okay, well, that was great, and I'm gonna get back in my car. And I have like no idea what just happened. Like, I'm still like, I have no idea what this is all about, but okay. And then all of a sudden, emails, you see my phone, it was back in the day when you didn't have GPS in your car and everything was on your phone. So I have my phone and my phone's, everything's happening. And he's emailing this person and that person. The next thing I know, I get an email from this woman. Can you meet me tomorrow in Long Beach? I've been told I have to sit down and meet with you and I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So the next day I'm going to go
What is
meet.
in the water? Something is happening.
Right,
Okay.
I'm like, well, he tells this woman, you need to go meet with her on my behalf. So she meets with me, and she sits down and she says, well, he's a very successful player. He's had hardship and he sees a lot of himself in you, and he likes to help people. So he would like to help you, but there's rules. One is you can't tell anybody. And two is you just have to shut up. Like, you just have to take it. Like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know this man and he wants to help me. Well, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to send you money every month. He's going to wire you money every month and ask for nothing in return. And if you need anything, you ask him and he'll send you more. And I'm like, what? You're like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. And I'm like,
You realize your life is a movie. Okay. So to what did you say? Like, are you kidding me?
well, I just kept questioning it. And she's like kind of a tough badass. She's a coach of a women's basketball team at a university. And she literally was like, shut up. Don't ask any questions. Just stop. Like, you need to just stop right now and just receive from this man and don't question it. So I was like, okay. She's like, all right, what's your Venmo account? And I'm like, what?
What?
She's like, on the 15th of every month, this is coming to you. He's also hired a PR person for you. He's also reached to somebody in Detroit for you to meet. He's also like, this is a championship NBA player that I met for running through a hallway, and who, I mean, like, how does this doesn't happen? Like, I'm like, and for over a year and beyond. And then this man not only wired me money, but then 2 weeks later, I'm invited to do a TED Talk. Oh my God, really? I'm going to do a TED Talk? Oh my God, right? Well, the TED Talk's in the East Coast. How am I getting there? So I announce on social media, on Facebook, like I do everything in my whole life. I'm like an overshare. Hey, I just got invited to do a TED Talk. He texts me immediately. Where's the TED Talk? Because you're going to be touring. How are you going to get to it? And I'm like, I haven't figured all that. Okay. Will you tell me where it is and what state you're going to, and we'll figure it out. He paid for my flight to get to the TED Talk. He paid for everything. If it wasn't for him, and I didn't even tell him that literally when I went for my TED Talk, I had $50 to my name. Literally, I had no money because I'm touring around America. I spent my entire life savings. I'm living in strangers' homes. I'm not charging anyone. I have no money. I'm just literally living like I was homeless. I was living homeless. Like, I was a homeless person for 3.5 years doing this work and not taking a dime. So, Ronnie was just, his name is Ronnie Turoff. And I have to tell you, I've never said his name out loud because he's never allowed me to do that. But at the end of the day, this man deserves a huge amount of credit. I'm one of many people that he's helped. And if it wasn't for him, the tour never would have happened. I don't know how it would have been able to go as long as it did. And that's what, that's like divine intervention. That's like your guardian angels. The things like that happening let me know I was doing what I was supposed to do,
Absolutely.
And I have to tell you that this man still to this day probably means more to me than any human in my life, because I can't even believe I'm going to get emotional, because it's the first and only person that I've ever met in my life that has asked that has helped me without asking for anything in return. I've never had someone be so loving and selfless to me, still to this day, whether it be family or I've never had a human being treat me the way this Ronnie has. And I still to this day, I will get anonymous money and it always is him. He still just does that. Like, and I don't even talk to, like, it's not that I don't talk to him. He's not American. So let me just share his story. So he was raised in Martinique, poor family. Anyway, ends up in France, basketball. He's 7 feet. He's like super tall, gets drafted by the Lakers. They do an exam and they find out he has a congenital heart defect and they drop him. So his lifelong dream ends before it gets to start. The Lakers pay for his surgery and he's never supposed to play basketball again. 6 months later, he's picked up by the Lakers and goes on to become a champion. Wow. And I said to him, why me? And he said, because I saw me in you the minute I met you. You and I have overcome adversity our whole entire life. And I wanted to be the person to help you for the first time. Like he saw that in me in that little run through the thing. And I think maybe the owner of Worlds did too, because Roman invited me to be on that stage and put me in a position where I could be in front of people like that, who could make my ability to help and change lives a reality. Because quite honestly, you know, the doors that opened and the things that happened were just miraculous. And again, I only met this man for 30 seconds.
Well,
I'm crying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't. First of all, there is no sorry on the Meredith show, especially when you're sharing from the heart. I think that there are a couple of things that stand out here. I mean, not only are there no coincidences in life, I'm not surprised at how he showed up for you, because I just think in this world, when you're showing up the way you've shown up in extraordinary generosity, how could you not attract it, right? That's the beauty of life. And you made a choice. And it's so interesting. I've actually had 3 guests today, V, and there's such a theme for people who are really inspirational, if I may say. It's that no matter whatever it takes, they're just on a mission, taking a leap of faith. And that to me is the most inspirational part. I mean, I'm sure there are people who have healed themselves. I mean, well, you're pretty extraordinary, but there are people for sure.
Oh yeah, there's many. You inspired me.
Right. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you were brought on this earth, if you will. I'm all about the shine, to share your story, which is shine. I mean, I say this over and over again, but shame on you if you have had a hard life and you're hiding it. You know, the gift is sharing your story. So, you know, thank you, first of all, for being a yes again. And thank you for being generous enough to go there. And then finally, I guess for people who are watching at home, what do you think your greatest takeaway is now, having lived your life and been through everything you've been through and impacted as you have? What's the lesson here? What do you think? Because I gave you my take on it. Not surprising. You're a beautiful, generous soul. Of course, an extraordinary soul is going to find you, but wow.
I think, you know, the lesson for me is how I got to where I was I just questioned the status quo. And I have just always been, you know, when I got invited to Worlds, with the fact that I shared my story and I met the owner, you know, these were all opportunities that sort of came out of left field that most of the time you'd be like, oh, I don't know. I felt uncomfortable saying yes to them, but I still went. I just peek in every door. I don't have to stay for very long, but you just peek in every door. And that's what and those are the things where I have to tell you, most of the time I'm like, I feel uncomfortable. Like, quite honestly, like I didn't even have the right clothes to wear. Like, even when I met you, I had just come off tour. Like, I was like, I don't, like, everything I have, I paid $3 for. Like, I don't even know how to show up in an event like this. Like, I was living with only 70%, you know what I mean? So I think just peek in every door. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, life, you put stuff out there, like, you know, you have to be open to receive. And I guess I was open to receive. And Ronnie was looking to give. I mean, I think that's his lens all the time. So just a fine man, just a fine man.
And what an extraordinary story. And here's the best part. It's not over. It's like V 2.0. We have another part that we get to share on the Meredith story, but I asked you and you were a yes, if you would come back in the future and give us 2.0, because there's a second amazing story that I think many people need to know, and it has to do with matters of the heart. And so thank you very much for your time today. And for those of you who are watching at home, I say it over and over again. I know you know somebody out there doing something amazing. Whatever you do, don't keep it to yourself. Take a little time, share the love, share your shine. And please, if you're inspired like I am, share this show with a friend. I know it matters. Thank you so much for sharing your story, V. And thanks again.
Thank you.
For the show.
If you liked today's episode, we hope that you'll like us on Facebook and stay connected. You can find us under The Meredith Show there and on Instagram under The Meredith Show. And if you or somebody you know you think will make a great guest, please email us at meredith@themeredithshow.com and my team will set up an appointment right away.